We are here. Also, I'm kind of hyped because I have the anxiety. I have to go on a flight later, so I have that anxiety. Like, I need to get there, right? But so if I'm like all over the place, that's what it is, right? But I'm Sabia. Welcome to the Birthday with Sarah space. We're going to be talking to Noelle today from Legado. Hello, Legado. Do you call it Hello, Legado, or do you say Legado?
It's Legato.
Okay. Because I was like, I know it's hello Legado on your website, I mean, on your email, but nonetheless. So, Noelle, can you introduce yourself? First, introduce yourself, however you want to introduce yourself, and then we can talk about Legato.
Awesome. Yes, my name is Noelle Kimball McEntee. I am a I'm getting a call, unfortunately. Let me just get that. That's the fun Slack music. Yeah, that generally starts playing when I introduce myself. I get some back. Anywho, so my name is Noelle Kimball McEntee. I am one of the co-founders of Legado, a modern day estate planning company. I am from the Hudson Valley, which is just north of New York City. My pronouns are she, her, and I am just thrilled to be chatting with you today.
I'm from Jersey City originally.
Oh,
So, I know
okay.
a bit, you know. So we're Jersey girls. Okay. So, what is Legato?
So Legato is sort of the antithesis of what modern or common estate planning is. So uh, generally when you think of estate planning, or when many people think of estate planning, it's this sort of doom and gloom, end of life, ugh, right? That's the like, ugh feeling you get. You know, it's something you should do. You know, it feels kind of scary and overwhelming. There's a lot of confusion in that space. And so Legato is there to make it something that's more celebratory, in the sense of, let's look at all the things you've done and you've accomplished, whether it's monetarily, whether it's for your community, whether it's for the world, whatever it might be. And let's honor that legacy and preserve it and make sure that whatever you find important and special goes to the people that you want it to go to in the most
Mhm.
seamless possible way. And that's why we created Legato.
I love that. I think so as a birth worker, I definitely want to talk about how birth workers can really be in that space because I think obviously we work with clients who are in different reproductive health experiences, whether it's birth, abortion, whatever the case may be, there's always honestly, there always is some level of risk, right? Like when you're talking about healthcare. And I think obviously with risk comes thoughts about what about mortality like
Yeah.
right, especially when you're bringing a child into the world, that's really one of the big things. And I guess I wonder how do you feel birth workers can have these conversations and even give an explanation of what estate planning can include, like a little bit more detailed.
Yes, of course. So estate planning, first, let's just like clear the air and make and address what most people think it is. It does not mean you need to have a big house with like a pit, like a massive fence around it. The
Mhm.
concept of estate is such a confusing one when it comes to estate planning. Your estate is everything that you hold dear and all of your assets. So it could be your car, it could be your stamp collection, it could be, it's obviously your bank accounts, your retirement accounts, your home. It's everything that you would want to pass on to someone else. So you do not need to be mega rich to have an estate plan. Actually, you really don't, like, you shouldn't be at all.
Mhm.
If
Mhm.
you care about your things and you care about them going to people you love, you need an estate plan. Typically, estate plans, and what most people think of them as, is a will. And a will is a really great first step for estate planning. However, wills generally end up in probate, and the probate court process is
So
painful.
long.
Yes, it's
Mhm.
long. So it's emotionally painful. There's actually been studies about like it being physically painful for people, because it's just
Mhm.
so much stress. Financially, both your finances, plus it can drain between 10 and 3% of the total estate. So think of you inheriting all this money, or you want your family to. Now take a 10% of that away, and that's what goes to the probate process. So the
Mm-hmm.
reason that Sierra and I created Legado is because she is a estate planning attorney, and she realized that so many people didn't realize that there was another option, which is a revocable living trust. And the benefit of a trust is that it allows you to do a little bit more work now, but it makes things so much easier for your family later. And it saves them a lot of time, money, and heartache. So that's what estate planning is. It's preparing everything while you're alive to ensure that things are easier for your loved ones later on. But it can also have to do with if you're incapacitated, right? If something does happen, how do you make sure people are making decisions for you, especially if you have adult children that are off to college, what have you? Do they have
Yeah.
advanced
And I think too,
directives?
like we all to some degree have like had someone, pass away in our family or become incapacitated and like it's so much family drama and you're
Exactly.
like, what? Right? But it's like, what if you just had a plan of like, hey, when I pass or when this situation happens, this is what I want. Ain't no need for nobody to argue. Ain't no
Exactly.
need for nobody to claim ownership of it because this is exactly what it is. Like,
Exactly. So to your other point or your question regarding how birth workers are and doulas can get involved, the really interesting moment in time that we are in is that people are now thinking about their estate planning at really exciting moments in their life rather than later in life when they're thinking like of end of life wishes. So previous generations would create their estate plans as they were getting older, as they were retiring, and that like death just felt a little close. So it felt a
hmm
little, it felt harder, right? That feels
hmm hmm
not as not something you want to do. So the beautiful thing is that people are thinking about it now when they're actually millennials are creating their estate plans. The number one reason for it is the addition of a family member, so the birth of a child. And so the beautiful thing here for doulas is that they are such an integral part of that moment, and there is so much trust with that person,
For
and
sure.
they're just breathing so much like knowledge into the life of this family. Why not also ensure that if something awful happened, that that child had the security of financially, emotionally, and of a guardian to be sure that they're
hmm
protected? And so that's where I see doulas being an integral part of estate planning, is helping these families make that leap in that really exciting moment versus
hmm
later in life.
And I think that's too, like, I think like when we think about, I think a part of people kind of maybe not talking about their estate planning process is like this, fear of death, right? The fear of my own mortality. But I think like this kind of work that you do, along with, other people I've talked about, is like also empowering people in the process, right? Because we're all born and we all die. It just is what it is. Like, right? So it's like if we all know that this thing is inevitable, now we don't know when, right? Hopefully it's far off if we're young or whatever the case may be. But like, I think it kind of goes into the conversation of like, what does it mean to die well, right? And for me, part of my dying well is like, yeah, I may not be able to exactly know. Tomorrow I could die, right? Like, who knows, right? So I can't really predict those circumstances. But to die well would be to know that my family has the space to grieve,
Yes.
right? And if they don't have to have like, we got to go here and figure out the funeral, and then we have to go here and figure out what about this money and what to do with the businesses and what to do with this and like how to move this and who feels ownership to that and who has a problem with that. Like to die well is to be like, hey, this is the situation, this is the plan, and I need y'all to just grieve. Like,
That's such
just
a
grieve.
beautiful, that's such a beautiful statement. Like, let's give the grace ourselves the grace of dying well by preparing for it. And the second, like, it's interesting, I see people the second that they're able to feel like they're in control of it, it's no longer as like scary because they have
hmm
this like they can sort of breathe. And if something does happen to me, I know that there is a guardian and a backup guardian for my daughter, and I'm able to like just breathe a little easier and
hmm
know that everything will be okay. It'll be awful, but at least I'm not making it worse by not acknowledging that it's a possibility and preparing for it.
That part. And so with Legato, what is the process? So if someone goes on the website, how do they move along? What are the pieces?
Yeah, so we we try to make it really easy for folks. There's a few things you can do because we know that this is a really sort of confusing process. So you can either take one of our quizzes online. We have a quiz where we ask you a few different questions to make sure that we're the right fit for you, and that'll either tell you whether you should make your own trust or you should make it with your partner. From there, you would create or you put your information into our legacy planner, and that's our intake form. And a lot of people think that they're going to need their social security number and all of their bank account details and all that. And really, you do not need that. It takes less than 10 minutes to complete. And the stuff you really need is to know, where you want your assets going to, and who you'd want to name as a guardian for a child. And then from there, you'll have a meeting with an estate planning attorney and be able to ask them any questions you have. And so it's a pretty simple, streamlined process. It's not cookie cutter. You're not just going on and buying something online. And you're also
Mm-hmm.
not having to go to an attorney's office and do that whole song and dance. We're trying to make it much more modern and approachable for folks.
I love that. Is there a cost to this service?
There is. It's $2,500 and that's flat. And the one thing to consider there is that it is trust based. We don't sell anything that isn't just a will. We truly believe that people need trusts, and we also believe that and this is when the other estate planning attorneys are going to come at me, but we believe that for years, estate planning attorneys haven't recommended trusts to people because if they help create a will and then when someone passes, then that family goes back to them and asks them to help them through probate court. And so what happens there is
Mm,
that they're double dipping.
mm,
And that's one of the reasons my co-founders, she was just fed up. She said, "This is awful. I don't feel good doing this to people. There's a better solution. We can make it less expensive and make it more equitable for most people." So yes, there is a cost. It's $2,500. Happy to give you a discount code for your community, and
yes, please.
we also help with funding, which is one of the things that no one else does. We have a very comprehensive funding guide for the trust, which even if you go to a law firm, they're not going to help with like we will.
I need to go on Legado.
Oh, let's do it. Let's do it.
I'm like, I need to, because you know how it is. Like, I have a will, but it's like, when you have businesses and this, you got to think about how does this move? Who's the best to do this? Like, when you have animals, right? Like, if I was to die tomorrow, who's gonna take care of my dog? It's like, it's like all these things that you wanna think about ahead of time. And like you said, like there's empowerment is something that's inevitable.
Yeah, exactly. And we definitely help people with trusts. We also help people understand, how they can put their businesses in this. Again, we are a female founded company, and we are like, I I I embarrassingly talk about estate planning constantly now because I'm like, people need to know, women need to know. This is like,
Mm-hmm.
everyone needs to know that this is something that they can change and that it doesn't have to be scary. And let's do it together. And I promise
Yeah.
you, it's not going to be super sad.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like really like even when I like one of the things that I was kind of talk around this month is like one of the questions I asked during a meditation that I did is like, what ceremonies would you like your loved ones to do before and prior, like and after death, right? And like people, I think like that can be a scary thing, but it's like actually, yeah, like what do I want y'all to do? Because like I may not want a traditional funeral. I may want y'all to sing and dance. I may want y'all to play like my friend that passed away, like she had her family play puzzles and game boards because that's her thing. Like so it's like, yeah, just having those conversations can be so empowering and also like can spark a level of creativity
Yeah,
around like, yeah, how do I want to like go out?
exactly. Well, that's one
So,
of the things that we're really our future vision for Legado is to truly help people think about what their legacy is and how they can either work build it more, like if they want
mhm.
going to charity, do they want to ensure that you know, there's a certain local artist that's performing at their memorial rather than a funeral. Like there's so many details there that again
Mm-hmm.
feel silly, but I don't know about you. I've gone to so many funerals and I'm like, this isn't what that person would want it. Like not at all,
No,
especially the religious ones that I'm like,
I
that's
know.
beautiful, but I knew this person and this wasn't what they wanted.
And it's also like, and I think specifically too for, um, queer and trans people who deal with, so much bullshit in regards to that, like being able to say, like, these are my pronouns. This is how I want to be addressed. This is the way that I want to dress, right? This is what I want to wear. Like, this is what I want to do. Like, those things are important to name, right? Like, in the process, because, unfortunately, sometimes people don't respect that. Like whoever may become in charge of your estate may not respect that and respect who you are fully.
I mean, that's so important. And it's actually one of the things we've done and that we're really working hard to do is to ensure that all of our language in our documents um is non-gendered, because you may not be surprised, although it's sad, a lot of documents out there now still say like husband and wife. And in so many situations, especially you know, for multiple different types of family units and structures, there may not be a standard, like they may not be married, right?
Mm-hmm.
They may be, there may be multiple people in the partnership and the relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
so by not having legal documents, when bad things happen, are you protected? Is your loved one, is your partner, are they going to be able to come in and be with you and
Mm-hmm.
make those medical decisions? Are they going to
Mm-hmm.
inherit your home that is maybe only in one of your names? And so one of the things I talk a lot about is ensuring that, you know, you do not need to be married, but if you love someone and you're committed to them and you want your belongings to go to them, you do need to have a trust. Definitely, because worst case
Mm-hmm.
scenario, something happens and then all of a sudden your mom's making your medical decisions and they don't recognize, you know,
Who you are.
exactly. And so
Mm-hmm.
that would be heartbreaking. So we try really hard to ensure that people feel comfortable coming to us, um and feeling supported and included, um regardless of who they are or what their um family structure is.
For sure. I love that. Cause yeah, that's definitely a thing, right? Like not being married or being queer or being poly, like these are all things that have to be included in our awareness of like when I die, how will that be respected?
Yeah,
So
especially for poly couples too. That's one thing that we
oh
definitely
yeah, for
talk about.
sure.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that's the whole thing.
A judge going through probate for a polyamorous couple is not going to treat
I
them well.
can't even. I can't even.
Yeah,
I can't even imagine. I mean, yeah. So two more questions for you.
of course.
So my question is, when you think about the future of estate planning, and even when you think about the future of Legato, what do you see? What do you want to see?
My hope is that it's a thinking about what your legacy is something that you think about the same way you think about what your career is, right? The next step is in your career. You do not, we put so much emphasis on what your job title is, but we're not putting enough emphasis on the positive impacts that we have on the world and documenting those and honoring those, and you know, even for ourselves. And so
Mm-hmm.
what I see the future of Legato is this sort of celebration and movement of people feeling comfortable talking about death and what
Mm-hmm.
they are proud of and what sort of, you know, impact they want to leave on the world today, tomorrow, and beyond. And so we want Legato to sort of be this movement for people to feel empowered to have these conversations, to give them the language and the questions so that they can start the conversations, and then also to give them the tools to ensure that all of this is in writing and in a way that it both legally, emotionally, all of that is squared away and protected and honored.
I love that because yeah, it all starts with the conversation of death, right? Like normalizing it, and not just talking about it when death happens. Like let's just talk about it.
Well, and what's crazy too is that in the next 20 years, there's going to be the largest transfer of wealth between generations than there's ever been. And if you ask, a lot of people, a lot of boomers, if they have an estate plan, they don't. And so what's going to happen is a lot of that money that should be going and becoming multi-generational wealth will end up going to court proceedings and lawyers because people do not have comprehensive estate plans. And so from emotional perspective, but then also from a financial perspective, we are leaving stuff on the table by not taking that step and talking to our loved ones about both our own estate plans and their estate plans. And so I really hope people can start doing that because otherwise nothing's going to change. But
hmm And one more question for you. So, in this work of estate planning activism, how are you taking care of yourself?
oh, I love that. How am I taking care of myself? I am trying to push myself to remember what I want my impact to be. And most of the time my impact is helping people do what they're passionate about. And so I also have to remind myself to do things that I'm passionate about. So I
hmm
right now I'm planning my daughter's birthday party and we're going to I have a lot of crafts I'm going to do. And so it's little things like that that I want to leave a legacy of. Like Noelle always did really fun, exciting, beautiful events for her family. So we'll see.
Yes.
This year, her birthday is going to be a drag themed birthday party, and all of
Oh, I
the
love that.
we're gonna hire a drag queen to come and perform some of her favorite songs, and all of in lieu of gifts, we're asking people to donate to a few different nonprofits. And anyone that walks through the door is getting a boa, a tiara, and some sparkles. And so, yeah, it's gonna be a drag to be two. Is the it's gonna
Well, how do people reach Legato?
We are on line at Hello Legado, Legado, which means legacy, by the way. HelloLegado.com. You can also reach us on Instagram and TikTok at Hello Legado as well.
Well, thank you for your time, and I'm definitely going to look into Legato for myself.
Good, good, good. We're happy to help.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you.
Bye.